It still says starting. Okay, there it goes.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Dhamma podcast, where we discuss all things Dhamma. Okay. Your wife left you, took your kids. There's Dhamma for that. Okay. So every Wednesday we come on the Skype call. Anyone's welcome to join, and we can come and speak the Dhamma, and essentially just be friends and hang out. That's what the Sangha is for. So Veda asked, he brought up a topic when we were thinking up a topic to discuss about organic approach to the Dhamma, so a little bit more fluid versus a map approach or mapping out the path. Is that correct?
Yes.
What you're getting at? Okay. So so maps are kind of controversial thing in spiritual circles and meditation and awakening, but I don't see them as essentially good or bad. For those who are unfamiliar with maps, probably the main one that comes to mind in this context is the Theravada four path model. Am I correct? Or maybe the Vipassana map of
the
Dukkha,
16 steps or whatever.
With all the dark night stuff and so on.
The three characteristics, and then arising and passing away, and then I have like a vague memory of all the grief, fear, misery, disgust, reobservation, equanimity, and then it goes into where we start.
Cessation, fruition.
With the jhāna. So here's what I think about the maps. I like the maps for the very specific reason that essentially what the maps are for is to tell you that everything's fine. Okay. Everything is going according to plan. So if you're experiencing some difficult territory, and it's important not to just be in some kind of denial that there is no difficult territory to meditation and awakening, when yes, there is. Like there can be difficult experiences and things that come up, and it's important to understand that these things can happen, but instead of manufacturing these difficult experiences or expecting them, it's more important how we when they arise. So the problem with the map is that you may be fabricating something that isn't there based off your idea of what should be there, because you have learned about the map. So you're going to be idealizing and deluding yourself into thinking, oh, I'm this part, or I'm stuck in fear, or I'm stuck in disgust, when really that's just a hindrance that you should be throwing out. So it depends, it depends on
you can do this also after you think you had a fruition or whatever, something, taking a map out, looking what is it, and then totally delude yourself about where you are stage wise.
Yes, that's another good point, is that in terms of it's very easy to convince yourself that you've attained the path when you haven't. So that is not entirely, I mean, some people will say that that's really dangerous and like really bad, but I don't think it's that bad, because I think it's good to start to develop confidence and a self self-assurance, you know.
Yeah.
It's the mentality, so it's the attitude. So you should approach meditation as if you're already enlightened. That's going to lead to much better results. So when I started the path, I was completely convinced that I have already realized the truth and everything. Obviously I was still suffering, but I had that mentality, and it's going to lead to confirmation bias of wholesome experiences. So if I have the mentality that I am enlightened, I'm only going to feed or support enlightenment types of experiences, right? I'm going to be like, oh, I'm just ignoring those hindrances, like whatever. I get mad, I get pissed about something, whatever. I'm enlightened, like forget about it.
Whatever happens.
Yeah. So this can be to rationalize dukkha, but it can also be used to throw it out, like as a mentality. So like I'm above it, right? So in the context of like good samma sankappa or right attitude, it's good. But in the context of this weird kind of like competition with others and sort of denial of your own dukkha, it's not good, because path attainments aren't about clout. Whereas like people, Westerners will like discover these like these little, everything is built on accomplishing something in the West. So they'll see like, oh, there's these 4 trophies, like, or these 4 like status symbols. Now I can get clout on the internet or whatever if I just start telling people I'm this. And most of the time they're not fooling anybody. Like it's really obvious to tell someone is not awakened. You know, you can tell by how they talk, and you can tell by how they react to people, and you can tell like it's going to be, the writing's on the wall, like it's going to be given away one way or another. So it's not helping you or anyone else to play that kind of like mental game. But it can be healthy to have an attitude of enlightenment, though. I'd say that is good, because you're going to the idea that these things are not possible, like it's going to be only a monk can achieve it, or like only decades of retreats and decades of this. If you have that attitude that it's not possible, you're not going to enter jhāna, and you're not going to have deeper insights, because
positive or negative, just feeding into right attitude like this.
It's the attitude that I can do this.
Yeah.
So you're not, if you're convinced that like the jhāna is unattainable, you're not going to enter jhāna.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But it's a hindrance in itself. Yeah, you're obstructing yourself.
Really, what it is doubt.
Yeah, doubt. Yeah.
Right. So going back to the map, and the really popular one of all the dukkha ñanas, so all the stages of dukkha, they may arise as a product of meditation. Whereas Dhammarato would say, you know, we're like skip all that and start with gladdening the mind. And that's good. And I can appreciate both perspectives, because I've experienced both. So but the problem with it's not that these dukkha ñanas don't happen when you're gladdening the mind. It's that you may cycle through them faster.
Yeah, that's another important point, is just how quickly, you know, these things can potentially cycle through. It doesn't have to be over like a long period of time. It can be within a minute, maybe less than that, right? How quickly this can kind of shift, you know. I mean, that's really also just understanding like impermanence and all that stuff as well. But yeah, that can be kind of helpful, because it's like, oh man, I've been in a dark night for like 3 months or something, and it's like, well, if you look a little closer, it might be shifting a lot quicker, than that even. But I mean, I suppose that's like understanding things on like the micro level and then the macro level as well, in terms of time frames. But yeah, that can be kind of helpful.
Yeah, comparing the let's say anorganic approaches to just cutting paticca samuppada, it's exactly like the point of contact.
Mm-hmm.
It's like completely unraveling a completely different world of Dhamma.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, it's like really like you just cut the crap and can exactly do what you need to do, instead of mapping everything, looking where you are, polluting the mind with all this stuff.
Yes.
And not really acting, not really doing something.
Or not practicing correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So correct practice. You may cycle through these things very quickly, but an important point is that the Dukkha ñanas and all of those stages and all the way to equanimity is kind of like an organic evolution. So these stages are like a natural, it's kind of like the stages of grief that you go through after someone dies or something. It's like a natural thing that like evolves and then goes into something, goes into the relief and goes into like all that kind of stuff. So if you're thinking like, what stage am I in?
Yeah.
You're probably just not even close to like the process at all of the process taking place and unfolding. You're probably not even close to it, because I think you're probably just an ordinary dukkha. So correct practice, but the maps are good in the sense that you shouldn't be caught off guard by difficult experiences, and you should realize that these are things that can happen, but you can handle them, and there is a natural progression, and then there is an evolution, and everything is still going according to plan. But like, it doesn't mean stop seeing this moment directly. And doesn't mean project into the future of waiting for the next stage to happen, because then they're not going, like, then the evolution isn't even taking place. You're just an ordinary, mundane craving and aversion and not practicing correctly.
Yeah, so it is helpful, again, just to remember the map is not the territory, and also sometimes just to throw it out completely and just pay attention to what's happening, Yeah.
Another
It's interesting.
Another important point that I hear Dhammarato often talk about is that people think they're going to go from like dukkha or like deep in dukkha to neutral. But that's the way it works. You have to go all the way to the heights. You have to go from the deepest, darkest place, and you have to be
bipolar. You have to be bipolar.
Yeah. So there is a bipolar stage of things.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's another thing. Like, oftentimes people going through an awakening process may be diagnosed with bipolar disorder because of the dramatic swings. Mm-hmm. So you go from the depths of hell all the way through the heights of ecstasy, so that you can eventually find an equilibrium and stabilize out. And now you're more in control, and you can go to the heights, and you can pick yourself out of the depths. But the momentum of being down in the dumps isn't going to just go to neutral. You have to get the thing. It's like getting a rocket off in the space. It takes so much fuel. So you need that you need that transcendent joy. You need that really talking yourself into a really good state, an elated state, actually. So you need to learn how to, or like you can you can learn how to get yourself into this good of a feeling, and that's not the end all be all. That's part of the process.
Yeah,
that's just one step. And then once you develop the skills of piti and sukha and develop the skills of jhāna, then you can really start to deconstruct things and develop insights into dependent origination.
It's the best foundation.
So
the best of all them.
Yeah, so when you develop insight into dependent origination, then that's kind of like so at first you're playing the video game and you're trying to win the game and you're getting good with the rules of the game and you're winning the game. That's like ordinary jhāna practice and changing the feelings and like playing within the confines of the game. And then once you beat the game, now you have access to New Game Plus, where you have all your same equipment from the first round. So you're fully equipped to handle things in a much more precise and almost broken way. So like you broke the system. So it's like you can like really play around with the building blocks of the game, and you have access to the rules, and you have access to the actual structure of the video game, and you can just write in a piece of code and change it so you get infinite ammo or infinite whatever. Your health bar doesn't come. That's the insight into DO. So insight into dependent origination is like, instead of trying to beat the game with the rules of the game, you can tinker with the rules themselves. So you see you see how things connect and how things function in conjunction with each other to create this human experience that we're experiencing. And with the removal of this aspect of the experience comes the removal of another aspect of the experience. That's the pretty straightforward way of understanding dependent origination, is that everything, most importantly dukkha, is a product of its causes and conditions. And with the cessation of those causes and conditions comes the cessation of the effect. So on this assembly line of dependent origination, if you stay in the raw data of your experience without constructing a self out of it, without constructing nama rupa, so without naming things and without form, clinging it's impossible for clinging to arise. So there can be no dukkha if you can literally stay in the raw data of your experience and stop the process from going from raw data to naming and labeling, to creating a sense of self, to clinging. So in a recent talk, Dhammarato uses an analogy with me of an apple falling from a tree. So when that apple falls from a tree, you see it as an apple and you realize that it's an apple, and then you say, I want that apple. But if it's just an apple falling from a tree and it's just that, and you don't even know it's an apple, and it's just the information of an event, and you don't even get to the step of saying, oh, that's an apple, now I want that apple, there's no craving. So this is kind of what...
It's almost funny.
It's funny, and kind of what equanimity is. So in that stage of the Dukkha ñanas and all the way to equanimity is like, okay, now things are just happening, and you don't mind one way or another, or you're not making a big deal out of anything. Everything is just happening, and there's total indifference. So even the mind objects, even the thoughts, everything that's going on, there's total indifference to all of that stuff, and it's just seen as, it's all kind of equalized. So all of the information of your experience, all of the 6 sense spaces in the mind, is equalized to being equally just information. And one is not more desirable than another. So you're not liking one aspect of your experience over another. And so equanimity is achieved through that. And through equanimity comes clear seeing.
There you go.
Through this experience of total indifference and equanimity, we can see the functioning and even the process of dependent origination. So once you're zoomed out, so to speak, enough to see the process of dependent origination, you can develop indifference even through the process of self arising and clinging arising. So it's kind of a metacognition. You can see these events take place as an impersonal event. So even the whole delineation of dependent origination becomes an impersonal event. But it really requires getting to these wholesome states and higher levels of insights to be able to see that. So you cannot understand that as a philosophy. You can't just think, oh, it's all impersonal and my dukkha is impersonal, and just say that and try to bypass it. No, you have to come out of dukkha and then catch it as it happens, wisdom at the point of contact, and then see for yourself it's impersonal. So there's a big difference there. It's not just a philosophy of it. It's not a philosophy of no self, of thinking, oh, none of it is me. Yeah. No, you see it's not you because you see the very building blocks as it happens. Yes, Rob.
That's it.
You have a question?
That's it.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Scott. I've heard it said that before the equanimity ñāna, we have to do a lot of vipassana practice so that the mind will continue to vipassanalize on its own while we're in the equanimity ñāna. How important do you think that is, and how would you go about that?
Just to be clear about these maps and different tradition is, I'm no way an expert. I've never been a Vipassana practitioner. I just kind of glossed over these maps, and I read them and I understood them, and I've realized, looking back on my experience, oh yeah, I've experienced all those stages and all that kind of naturally happened. But before I got to Dhammarato's practice of gladdening the mind and throwing out unwholesome thoughts and thinking wholesome thoughts, the only form of meditation I did was do nothing meditation, and that's it. I didn't do anything. So it's whatever meditation you're doing, I can see the parallels, and I can see, I can see the maps in the same process. So I'm not going to be able to tell you how to do Vipassana because I'm not a Vipassana practitioner. I can tell you what investigation is in the way that the Buddha taught it, of the experience of jhāna leading to the insights and the clear seeing. But I don't start there. I'm a firm practitioner of Dhammarato school, and I start where Dhammarato starts because that's how it worked for me. So that's how I'm going to teach it from now on. Does that make sense? I don't teach other people's methods.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So we're talking about the maps. I'm not a map expert, If you want to learn more about maps, you should probably talk to but I'm just talking and relating it to my understanding of things, and in this context, and this is how I see it, the map, and this is the pros and cons I see about it. So it's kind of an open dialogue, I don't have I think I'm pretty pragmatic in the sense that whatever works. So for a lot of people, Vipassana doesn't work, but for people that approach works, that's the best path for them. Does that make sense? But
yeah.
You can apply the gladdening step into everything. I mean, even if you do like open awareness or whatever. I mean, if hindrances come up, you just deal with it that way, and you can surely do vipassana despite that or with that. It's more an incorporation thing, because if I think about like vipassana for me is mostly, especially because we are talking about the maps, like Daniel Ingram, Frank Yang, and people like that, who are really like, I mean, Daniel Ingram says things like, I'm vipassanalizing, I vipassanalize the world and everything. And right. it's like ripping everything apart. I mean, he talks about it like a like a maniac, like with Edward Scissorhands, like and
yeah. So
if you incline to that, and if this doesn't make you go completely crazy, I would go crazy.
Yeah. So this type of practice does lead to dark nights of the soul, but like it's kind of the same, like I'd say it's the same kind of vein as like psychedelics. So if you're the type of person that can handle these types of experiences, they can lead to profound insights. So a major part of my practice is just doing a bunch of psychedelics and just sitting through whatever it is that it brought up and just going through and learning how to navigate the territory. So
the ayahuasca approach.
I never did ayahuasca, but in terms of gliding the mind and being in a wholesome state, the stakes are much higher once you're tripping. So it ups the ante of the practice. So wow, I really have to pay attention to the kind of thoughts I'm letting in and the kind of thought trains I'm going down, because wow, things can get really bad really quick, or they can get really freaking good really quick. And when I see how good they can really get, I see, wow, this is something that I can intentionally do. And that same skill applies all the time. So not just when I'm tripping. So, but again, these types of things can lead to some very traumatic experience that a lot of people aren't ready to deal with and they can't really handle. So it's kind of like similar in that sense of just straight vipassanalizing stuff, or taking some psychedelics. Yeah, if you can remain equanimous, whatever comes up, and just keep going, then more power to you. But I say there's easier ways to start with gliding the mind and start with coming into a wholesome state intentionally, and then you can clearly see what's going on. So it's not that Dhammarato never talks about Vipassana or like Vipassana type methods. It's that he says it in a different way. So when he says like, oh, look at what your shirt feels like against your skin right now, or like, what does it really feel like to breathe right now in this moment? Or what does your face feel like in this moment? Like, what does this sensations feel like right now? Like be here in this room. Like what's going on in the room? Are there any alligators? All of that is Vipassana. So all of that is looking. That's all noble. So really what Vipassana really is looking and paying attention and seeing things for what they are. And that's the full fruition of it, is knowledge and visions of things that the way that they really are. So enlightenment is nothing other than seeing things as they are. And that might sound simplistic or vague, but that's true. And that might not seem very like desirable. That's the idea, is that where there's no desire. You're seeing things as they are.
I mean, maybe someone really has the intellectual capacity, whether it's the cognitive capacity to really motorize their way into this. But if you don't get the real feedback of the experience, you can vipassanalyze as much as you want. It's always an experience from the self, and you don't deconstruct the self. You have no anchor, real perspective. You're always operating from a self that is unaware of those constructs, if this makes sense.
Yeah, so that's any way that you're going to start any meditation practice is as a self doing meditation. So there's no way other around it. If you're trying to do a meditation to, like, I don't know, either improve your situation or like become happier or like enlightenment or whatever your goal is, that's a self doing that. And it's important not to rationalize that it's not a self because it is a self doing that. And so what should the first thing that self should do? The self should wake up out of suffering. That should be the main goal. So you should, the self should intentionally go into a wholesome state, intentionally go from dukkha to sukha. No self insight is after already waking up out of suffering. It's not no self insight first and then you wake up, because what self is going to realize no self? It's not going to happen. So there's no self to realize no self.
There are people who are so incredibly advanced in their you would say, under ordinary circumstances, like the ordinary Theravada speech or whatever, you have like those different realizers, like solitary realizer and so on and so on and so on. And this is what strikes me so much about the approach the supramundane Dhamma is giving. I mean, it's like it doesn't matter what you do, because you are going to develop exactly as this underlying program is just working for everyone, however this may manifest. This is so incredible. This strikes me again and again. It's like you have your own, you are developing your own like serotonin machine, and you can just lay in that, and then everything else develops completely organically. That's amazing.
So I like how you're talking about that is proving exactly my point. It's like you're saying that with a smile on your face. And so like you're already waking up out of dukkha and already experiencing sukha. And then once you, like everything's fine, you found that safety, you found that sukha, there's that piti that arises out of it, or the rapturous joy that comes from, everything really is fine. And it all is just happening on its own and there's nothing to worry about. But that's a product of coming out of unwholesome state of mind. If you're in an unwholesome state of mind and you're craving averting, there always is going to be a self there, because the self is the one that suffers. And trying to mental proliferate your way out of selfhood doesn't work. You have to gladden the mind, and you have to come out of dukkha. And then you could see what these guys are talking about, what it means, what these enlightenment experiences are getting at. And
this is why so many people experience this whole dark night stuff, because they just don't have the skill to really calm down everything. So let's say you can elevate your mind, to that point where you have perspective.
Or maybe it took all that dark night stuff to become fed up with it and finally have a re-observation.
This is the most common wording for this exact point in all the like Shinzen Young podcasts and whatever. They always come to this point where finally you probably went so fed up with everything that you just let go.
Okay.
But do you have to practice like 10 years of extremely excruciating, giving yourself pain all the time for realizing, okay, I don't have to do this.
No. But for those who are to suffering and for whatever reason, don't just go straight to right effort, and they still want to cling and they still want to go down that rabbit hole. Well, I say to them, okay, go down that rabbit hole, see what, now you can really see how much dukkha really there can happen. And then so you come back here and say, oh, I actually want to solve this dukkha because of how bad it really is. And then so you can see the consequences. Instead of it being kind of like an innocent thing, like oh, this thought it's creating subtle dukkha, but you don't really think there's a problem, and keep doing it until it becomes unbearable. And then when it becomes unbearable, now you are going to take the right effort of letting go. So letting go is still a little bit of effort. Like releasing, tranquilizing bodily formations. Okay, that is a relaxation, and that is going into a more effortless state. So it may seem from the outside looking in like it's not no effort involved. You're not doing anything. No, what we're really doing is the least amount of effort to get the job done. So you're intentionally letting go. You're intentionally releasing tensions. You're intentionally taking a deep breath and going, everything's fine. Hey, there's no dukkha. There's no dukkha here. There's no danger here. There's nothing to worry about. Now, that's a skill. Go ahead, Robert.
Thanks for that, guys. So here's an interesting question. Do you think that it's okay to gladden our minds with the excitement of the Dhamma, like being excited for the jhāna that's to come, like telling myself, I know that if I keep doing this practice, in the next 20-30 minutes I'll be in a jhāna and I'll be feeling really, really good. And then like using that excitement for the jhāna that's to come, even though it's like technically craving. Do you think that's still like an okay way to do it?
Yes, but you don't mean excitement. Excitement's not the right word. The correct word for what you're trying to say, Robert, is enthusiasm. So enthusiasm for the Dhamma is completely wholesome, and there's no craving in that. So the enthusiasm that this stuff is really possible and that you can actually do this. That's not excitement. Excitement is a projection into the future of like, oh shit, something's going to happen later. And it's kind of a restlessness. Enthusiasm is the joy of, wow, the discovery of the Dhamma. And this is the Dhamma. And this is the knowledge and vision of what is and isn't the path. So the enthusiasm of seeing this is the way out of suffering. that's insight into the one of the Four Noble Truths. There's a cause to suffering and there's a way out. Go ahead, Eric.
I think there might be a right case for to use excitement because in the case of samma sankappa, it's not only right attitude, but Dhammarato also describes it as right leaning, and that's like predicting a little bit into the future, like half a second into the future, because I know that when I take this next breath, it's gonna be refreshing, and that's the confidence. So
how about this breath is refreshing?
Yeah, but
the breath
I know that also the next one will be refreshing.
Right now is refreshing. So the next breath is going to be refreshing. That's craving. So that's a restlessness born out of not being satisfied with the breath that you're taking right now.
But
So
Scott, what if that craving and excitement for the next breath, what if that helps us get through this breath and gladdens our mind, like makes us happier because we're looking forward to, the jhāna, the next breath or whatever?
Yeah, you're going to be getting through your current experience indefinitely. Oh, I'm going to be coping with this. Oh, maybe next breath would be better. Or maybe the jhāna is going to come tomorrow. And maybe I'll be finally happy. Or maybe the path attainment is going to come. That's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So let me finish. That leads nowhere. It's fruitless. That's actually dissatisfaction. So how do you end that cycle? Is you start enjoying the breath that's happening right now and you become satisfied with the breath. That's the effort that we're doing, is coming into satisfaction of enjoying what's happening right now and letting go of the idea of something that isn't happening right now. And that's seeing things the way that they really are.
Right. So instead of saying I'm happy because, or thinking I'm happy because I'm going to have a really nice breath in 10 minutes, I've got to be focused on, no, this breath right now is just lovely. This is a really nice breath. But sometimes that's a bit harder to do because sometimes this breath doesn't feel lovely. Sometimes this breath feels a bit, not up to standard.
So then that's where the practice comes in of taking a more enjoyable breath. So intentionally, okay, that breath wasn't very good. This breath that I'm experiencing right now is now. Like, and enjoying the breath as it happens in this moment. So immediately what I just did is I forgot about any shallow breath that just happened. And I forgot about thinking of a next breath that will be good. And I created an enjoyable breath and enjoyed it as it was happening. That's what we do in Anapanasati. All right, bye, Veda.
See you, Veda. Thank you.
So that's Anapanasati, is taking a more enjoyable breath in this moment.
Yeah,
I agree. But I also find that in the beginning stages of the practice, it's like you are going to think of the future in one way or another. And when you already got the confidence built in of enjoying present breaths, then the idea of the future, which before was kind of overwhelming or bleak or whatever, it's the automatic reaction you begin to get is like more pleasant, more wholesome, and that can be a support of the practice, not a coping mechanism, but a complementary gift, let's say,
but the
to a good practice.
The difference there, Eric, is thinking of the future is a current experience that you're enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
So what does it mean?
Yeah, you're thinking of future as a concept, but I was meaning more future as a verbal experience, because language it's not as much to describe what's really happening as to communicate it, and you communicate it to other people or to yourself. So when you're talking about the future, even to yourself, it's not in the present moment. It's kind of you're weaving your own story that has its own projections. And that I was just thinking that the idea of the future can be wholesome when it's based on the confidence in the present moment. That's what I said.
So the idea of the future is a present experience.
Yeah,
that's to be
with
that you can enjoy. So the problem comes when the idea of the future creates dissatisfaction with the current experience, because even that the future itself is a concept, in the sense that this concept of the future is happening now, but doesn't exist in time. So you're never going to get to the future except by a current. I know this is a cliche, but it's the truth. So even the concept of the future is a current experience that you can enjoy and be satisfied with. And yes, it doesn't mean that we stop thinking about the future at all. The future can be incredibly wholesome. Every morning I wake up like, oh, I get to go drink some coffee, and I get happy that I get to go downstairs, and I look forward to it every morning, having a cup of coffee. But I'm satisfied with the idea that's currently happening.
Yeah.
I was listening to a recent talk too, where they were talking about piti, and that kind of linking too with like the anticipation, I suppose, is another word you could put for that. But yeah, like actually enjoying that sort of process of like in itself as it's happening, as it's occurring. So actually enjoying the anticipation without necessarily feeling in lack, like I need to get, this thing. But I mean, maybe there is something to, a confidence in that, and kind of having that well established and just enjoying that. But, again, if it's kind of taking you away from enjoying this breath, this moment, this experience, because we need to get into jhāna 20 minutes from now, rather than just being like, hey, this is good enough. Let's just enjoy this. That's really it. Like,
set the timer. Yeah. Come on. 20 minutes. I've got a schedule to keep everybody.
Yeah. But just enjoying, like, or even if you want to use excitement, I've thought of excitement and all that stuff in the past, but just more as an impersonal thing, which arises and ceases. Like it's just like, okay, cool. That's another fun little thing. But when the problem again just comes back to, the craving and being able to toss that out. And can we just enjoy what's going on here and now, and not so much conceptualized experience?
Well, in measurement too, in comparison. That's a
comparison.
Big one right there. It's about comparing, saying, oh, the moment I'm going to have is somehow better than the one I'm having now. And then you're craving again.
Yeah.
It's that measurement. That's what gets people, this idea of standards, this idea of, rather than taking each one as it comes and enjoying that, it's like, oh, this next one will be so much better. I can't wait. Well, if you can't wait, then you're not enjoying something. Like, yeah, you can wait. Enjoy the wait.
Yeah, DJ, you phrased it really well. Anticipation, that's a really good word for it. Yeah, that's a better word than excitement for what I was trying to say.
Yeah, definitely. I just remember in a recent talk, Dhammarato brings up like Rocky Horror Picture Show or whatever, talking about like anticipation or, whatever is said there. But yeah, just like, you're gonna get it or what, and so there's that confidence there. But again, it's being able to be like, hey, this is cool, that's cool too. You know what I mean? Like, You're not clinging to either. Like this present moment, whatever is making it up is going to arise and cease. Whatever's going to happen in the next one's going to arise and cease. Whatever content fills up this experience, whatever. You know, it's cool either way, baby. Like that's really it. Like
right. And there is no better and there is no worse. There is no better or worse. It's just what it is. Yep.
It is what it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another way you can think about it, practicing the jhāna or practicing entering a wholesome state. DJ raises a lot of good points there. Is that, so let's say you're practicing dancing or something. You're not practicing, like in the practice of the dance, you're not thinking about how good of a dancer you're going to be in a couple weeks or in 20 minutes of practicing. You're thinking about what you're doing and you're thinking about, am I dancing good right now? So that's the practice. That's the practice that works, is what's going on right now and what am I doing? Am I enjoying this? Okay, let me enjoy this. I'm not enjoying this again? Okay, let me see if I can do this again. Let me see if I could come into a satisfaction. So that's the practice. The practice is never how you're going to practice or how the practice is going to work. It's thinking about, what am I doing it right now? That's the only place it's going to happen. And then it may be 20 minutes of that practice. You may be in jhāna before you know it, but you're actually looking at what you're doing, like when it's happening.
Yeah, no, it can just be, woohoo, I get to sit on the floor or whatever, you know, just, yeah.
I can see you saying that out loud, TJ.
Yeah. That's part of the ritual.
There it is.
Yeah. Woohoo.
Oh, I forgot woohoo. Let me back up and do it again.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I agree, Scott. It really is just, paying attention to what's going on here and now, and not putting on like the restrictions, the rules. I need to have, this specific time frame before I can start to feel good. And it's like, no, when you recognize, and if you don't do, again, the comparison, right, you can, do it rather quickly, because a lot of the time it's just rules, That being said, sometimes it's like, if you do kind of do a sitting practice and you're like, okay, we're going to relax the body and all that stuff. Sure, it might get, more relaxed, you could say, but you can enjoy it from the start of the sit to the end of the sit, because I mean, even that has to do with these sensations. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
How else are you going to relax?
Yeah, precisely. So it's not, about getting to some like, oh, I must get to this, peak relax. It's just enjoy the process as it comes from the moment you sit down to the moment you get up, and it will sometimes fluctuate. Like sometimes, you'll pop out of it. But that even in itself can be a joyous experience when you wake up to it. Like that's the whole thing. So even if your mind gets carried away, even if there's a hindrance, it's congratulations. That's like wonderful, because, hey, now we're learning to handle these hindrances as well, which is a wonderful, fruit and benefit of the practice. They're like little candies when they come up, that's really it. Yeah. So it's not like really, I mean, if you go and you are like, oh man, I had a terrible sit or, whatever, and it's like putting this whole label on it, and it's like, no, it's not really how you have to, view it. Yeah.
So you're not going to relax. You're not going to sit down and relax if you're not starting with enjoying sitting down to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not getting into a comfortable position and you're not enjoying sitting down, how do you expect your body to start to relax?
Yeah.
So you're not relaxing to start enjoying sitting down. you're enjoying sitting. You start with enjoying sitting down, and then you relax into that, and then you wow, you can relax even more, and wow, now things are really kicking, and now now it feels like you can barely move because how relaxed you are, and like even moving your finger is too much effort because of how much you're enjoying just sitting completely still, and your body completely relaxes, and then the sensations of the body can be seen to be a lot more fluid and a lot more borderless. So you can see the borderlessness of the body, and you can kind of like melt into that, like become like really gooey, really ooey and gooey, like really really it's like getting into a hot tub, really. It's like, and the breath is all part of that. So enjoying the breath, it just adds to it. So this is a skill. This is a skill of relaxing your body and enjoying your breath. And if you're really not enjoying it and craving aversion arises, then what's the right effort to take to relax that craving? A craving, a hindrance arises. Ooh, I'm uncomfortable. Yeah, just adjust your position a little bit. Maybe get into a more comfortable position, and now you can relax. Or a thought comes up that's causing disturbance. Oh, you take the effort. You see that thought. You're like, oh, about that right now. I got nothing to do. I don't have to, that's an unnecessary thought. So that's the same thing. So that type of mental relaxation and that mental right effort is this. It's literally the same as like adjusting your position into a more comfortable state. So we're adjusting our bodily position into a more comfortable state, as well as our mental formations in a more comfortable state. Yeah.
Best thing you said today, Scott. Gooey. Like 3 pages of dialogue. Gooey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, you kind of have to get creative how you talk about these things because it's an experience.
That's right. And it confounds categories. It confounds language, like Eric was saying. It's really hard to describe these experiences using this faulty system of categorization.
Right.
Yeah. Man.
All right. Well, I think that's a good point for me to end this on. It's wonderful seeing everyone in the Sangha. Good talking with you guys. I think some good dialogue really came up, some really fruitful dialogue. Thanks for your question, Robert. That's a good point about excitement, and like that's one of those things where it's a kind of like a tightrope of where it could be wholesome or it could be unwholesome, of like being excited or enthusiastic about the future.
Yeah, thanks for the answers, everyone. Really helpful.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. And to anyone watching on YouTube, these Sangha calls go on every Wednesday. The link will be down in the description to join the Skype. Please like and subscribe. Okay. Spread the Dhamma. This is all free. This is all like non-profit. So this is just for the sake of, and actually, it's the real deal. It's not for some kind of business. So that's the coolest part about it. All right, guys, I'm going to head out.
See you.
See you, Scott.
See you. Thanks, everyone.